Paleohackers, welcome back. My next guest with us right here is Dr. Trevor Cates, also known as the Spa Doctor. Trevor Cates focuses on an anti-aging hormone balance and glowing skin. He is the online Glowing Skin Summit and author of The Glowing Skin for Women. Dr. Cates, thanks for joining us on the call today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here. I was mentioning before the call, we've never had like a skin-specific podcast before, and I'm really excited to jump into things because, you know, the skin is massive, and yeah, it's an exciting place to be. I think a lot of people struggle either with skin conditions or they're just not as knowledgeable about their skin as they'd like to be, or there's a lot of questions floating around out there, so it's good to nail some down today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess 101, the skin. Why are you fascinated with it? Kind of what got you into caring about the skin and researching it?
Yeah, well, you know, as a naturopathic physician, I'm always looking at the symptoms of the body as a sign that something is out of balance. And when people have skin problems, that is a great indication that something is out of balance. And so it's an easy sign to look for when when people have things like acne, rosacea, eczema, or premature aging. That's often a sign that the body's out of balance, and it's just telling us that something needs to be restored. And naturopathic medicine, holistic medicine, is a great way to help restore the body rather than just suppress a symptom with a topical steroid or an antibiotic. That's just suppressing a symptom and not really addressing the underlying cause of the problem. Okay,
so with the holistic approach versus more of the conventional approach, kind of what's the difference? What is mainstream dermatologist doing versus what the naturopathic physician does?
Right. Well, it's quite different. With dermatologists, and by the way, I love dermatologists. I've got some great friends that are dermatologists. But the problem is they're not approaching it the same way as a naturopathic physician. So like I said, what they'll do is they'll treat as a symptom by So a lot of dermatologists will prescribe a topical steroid cream that suppresses the symptom, or they'll give an antibiotic either topically or orally. Those are two of the most common prescriptions that dermatologists give. And it's not really addressing what's going on inside the body. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of different factors that can play a role in the skin. And it's not just an exterior thing. The skin is our largest organ, and it's connected to our other organ systems, our other body systems.
So skin 101, biggest organ of detoxification. What I was fascinated with when I was doing some research and just what I know from before is it's always turning over. It's always turning over, always turning over. I think it's like every 28 days you have new skin or something like that.
Yeah. We do have a lot of skin turnover. So it's a great opportunity to have healing of the skin and to get a fresh start. So it's not like we're just stuck with the skin because it's constantly turning over. So when we address things on the inside, then we can have glowing skin on the outside. And so, digestion is really important. Looking at food allergies, the foods that we're eating. A lot of inflammation is what triggers skin problems. So a lot of internal inflammation, and a lot of that comes from digestion and immune and having to do with foods that we're eating and the nutrients that we're getting. So nutritional deficiencies is another big problem with skin problems.
Okay. And so being that it's an organ of detoxification, would it be fair to say that when someone's got problems internally, the skin's trying to push it out, and that's why they're getting the skin conditions?
Well, that can be it because, yeah, like you're saying, we've got, it is one of the organs of detoxification, of elimination, just like our liver, our kidneys, those are all working to help expel things. And that happens with our skin too. But also if there are other imbalances going on. So if our digestive system, the good bacteria and our digestive tract are not in a good balance, that's going to show up on our skin because just like our gut gut has its own microbiome, that delicate balance of good bacteria and microorganisms.
Sure.
Our skin does also. So there's a connection between that, and there's more and more research coming out about the skin microbiome and all those bacteria that live in our skin. And when we do things like putting those topical creams on our face, like, people with acne will put things on their face
Right.
to kill off the acne that triggers, the bacteria that triggers acne, called P. acne is the main one. But when you do that, you also kill off all those beneficial bacteria that are helping keep the skin in balance. And so then people get in this vicious cycle of killing off those good bacteria, and then it just makes it all worse.
So kind of like the antibiotic of the acne treatment. It's just like those creams.
Yeah. It's the same thing. When people take antibiotics orally to treat like a strep throat infection or something like that, antibiotics are important when we need them. Like for a strep throat infection, we might need it, but it also will kill off the good bacteria that are helping keep our immune system in balance and just, the organ systems functioning properly.
Yeah, I just came back from a 3-month excursion in Southeast Asia, and I was doing some scuba diving over there, and my foot got a friction burn from the flipper and just busted open. It started out with like this little cut, and then it spread, and it got really infected by the time I was back here, and I had to get on antibiotics that I just got off. And running this call and hearing about antibiotics, it's like you're extra hyper vigilant about getting on them because you know what they'll do to you. But you still have to do it if your foot's about to fall off. Like my foot got bad.
Yeah.
It was bright red. It was terrible. So, I got on antibiotics, and within 72 hours, all gone, all better. It was magic. It was like a miracle drug. Of course, you do the probiotics and all that stuff. But again, it's very important. Kind of a little tangent there, but yeah.
It's so true. Antibiotics are, when we need them, they work really well. But the problem is that they're overused. And dermatology is no different than any other type of conventional medicine. They're overused. And so we need to be careful about when we use them and use them only when necessary.
And antibiotics in the food, that's the biggest one, right? It's just like the things they're pumping into the meat to keep them from not getting sick so they can sell them. Anyway, that's getting on a different topic. Let's get back to the skin, Clark. So I guess someone comes to you, they want help, they have skin issues. What's the thing you see every day? What's the most common thing you're working with?
Well, with skin, the number one skin condition in America is acne. So that would be the number one. And it happens, during puberty and those teenage years. And then a lot of people still have it in their 20s. And then for women going through perimenopause, then it shows up again. It resurfaces. So it is something that happens throughout our life. It's not like one time. A lot of people, it shows back up throughout our lives. And some people are more prone to it than others, but it does seem to be one of the biggest skin problems.
Right. Okay. And so, acne is huge, and that's got to be like embarrassing. I've never struggled with humongous acne, definitely just going through it, but I know some friends who are now in their adult years, and it's probably more embarrassing for adults than it is children because it almost has this like immature stigma around it. Like, oh, he's still going through puberty or something, or it's like people view it as unclean, or, I can imagine it'd be a huge self-esteem hit.
Oh, yeah. And really all skin conditions are, especially when it affects the face or anything that you're showing, you're trying to show off the skin. And especially if it shows up on your face, it really affects self-esteem. And with teenagers, it's a really big problem because that's when you're trying to create your sense of identity and who you are. And then, you've got acne on your face. And then, like you said, when people are older too, it's something that people think it's just for teenagers, but it's really not.
Sure. Yeah, and then, it's a vicious cycle then because the things you do to try and make it better can sometimes make it worse, like we were saying with different creams that you put on your face that can be toxic, or different makeups that can get all up in there and clog it and make it way worse and make your skin break out even more, so you have to use more makeup. And, I can imagine why it's such a big issue. And so I guess when people come to you with these issues then, what are kind of some things you do with them? Is there anything uncommon that you do that other people don't do that you've seen work a lot?
Well, with when it comes to dermatology, a lot of dermatologists don't talk about diet. Most, I would say, don't talk about the connection between our skin and what we're eating. And actually some dermatologists will go so far as to say that there is no connection, which there is more research now that shows that that's not true, that we definitely there is a connection between our food, what we eat, and our skin. And especially with something like acne, there are two foods that cause trigger acne more than any other foods are sugar and dairy. And so when someone has acne, that's some of the first recommendations I give them is to cut those two foods out and see how they do with their skin. And it oftentimes people will notice within just 2 days, their skin will start to clear up. And the reason why is with sugar, what happens is when we eat excessive amounts of sugar, or for people who have difficulty balancing their blood sugar, pre-diabetics or diabetics, but even if people are eating a lot of sugar and we're not using it as fuel, then that glucose in the body actually will then increase insulin, which then in turn increases androgens and sebum production. And androgens and sebum production are two of the things that we know trigger acne. And so just eating sugar or high glycemic index foods that cause your blood sugar to go up, can trigger acne.
Okay.
And
what are androgens again? Are they the hormones?
Androgens that are like testosterone and, more, they're considered more like male hormones, but they're the ones that cause trigger acne, a lot of, like hair growth and excess sweating and those kinds of symptoms. So
those are caused by, you said, sugar and dairy?
Well, that's one of the things that can increase it. And and so it's a combination of an androgen excess and sebum production. And sebum is that oil in the skin that will then trigger acne.
Okay. So when you eat those, you get more androgens, and then the sebum is what actually causes the release or the toxicity and pushes.
So then people get the acne breakouts. So cutting back on sugar, or like I said, high glycemic index foods that trigger our blood sugar to go up are going to be important to think about. So eating eating a lot of grains or a lot of fruit, or anything that turns to sugar in the body is going to have a similar effect. But sugar, of course, is the worst one. And then dairy is interesting. And the reason why that triggers acne is there are a few things going on with dairy products. One is dairy contains hormones. And that's just, even if you get hormone free or, no hormones added dairy products, you get organic, it's still just the nature of milk itself, because it's coming from a female cow, to provide nourishment for her baby. It's going to contain things like growth hormone and prolactin and things like that in there that can also, and even androgens that can trigger acne. And then other thing about dairy products is they contain lactose, which is milk sugar, they're naturally high in sugar. So going back to that what I was talking about, how increased blood sugar can then increase androgens and sebum production and trigger acne. So that leads back into that too. And actually the studies on milk, the worst one is skim milk. And I think that because with skim milk, you take out the fat, you're going to have more of that insulin and that glucose spike and insulin spike, so right. You don't have the fat to balance out the sugar. So that's going to lead more to that pathway of the glucose. And then lastly, dairy products are more pro-inflammatory foods.
Yeah.
So they're going to lead to more inflammation in the body. And like I said, inflammation is a big trigger for skin problems in general.
Yeah, and isn't all milk skim, and then they add the fats back in for the percentages? I heard that's how they do it in pasteurization for like mass ones. They just skim it all and they save some of it and then they add it back in. 1% for 1%.
I really don't know about that. It probably depends on where you get your milk from. Have
you seen this with raw milk too?
With raw milk, most people, if they're sensitive to dairy and they're having these inflammatory types of responses, they're going to react to all different types of dairy, even raw. But raw would be a better choice, I think, if you can find a really good source, because with raw it gets a little tricky because the reason why it is pasteurized and homogenized is to help kill off any bacteria. But I think if you get a good source of raw, it's going to be a much healthier
Yeah,
version
don't
of
get raw
dairy.
milk from the I-5, man. That smells going down there in Northern California. Yeah, because I know with raw milk, like people who are lactose intolerant and the enzyme lactase that gets thrown out can be in raw milk, and so that's why they can metabolize it with like ice cream or raw dairy and stuff like that. What about, last question on dairy before we move on? What about like goat's milk or different alternatives? Same thing?
Well, it can be a little better for some people, but to really give it, so what I usually tell people is take it out of your diet for 10 days. See how you do. And then if you really want to try, start with, whole raw milk or goat's milk and see how your skin does when you reintroduce that. Or start with, like sheep or goat's cheeses
Yeah.
or yogurts because they have some enzymes and probiotics in the yogurt. So that's a better place to start rather than just going straight to drinking skim milk, which the research has shown triggers acne.
So with acne then, I mean, this is obviously probably, one of the textbook problems of the skin. It's probably the easiest one to pinpoint. Like people think of skin issues, the first thing that comes to mind, boom, acne. The next thing that comes to mind is what the marketing industries have done such a good job at. It's a $1 billion industry, not just like millions, but, Dr. Evil right there at the $1 billion. And they think of these products that celebrities are selling. I mean, Jennifer Aniston's got one. Pete Diddy was on Proactive. It's on every 30 seconds. One of the best selling infomercials of all time is Proactive. I remember when I was 13, I ordered it just because it was on there. I didn't even have acne. I just wanted to use the stuff because I thought it was cool. That's how good of a job they did. And so like the question being, with all these products out there that are promising like miracle skin, have you seen any effects of these products on people's skin that they're using?
Well, yeah, and there's so much marketing hype with skincare products. It really is pretty crazy how people can have a really simple product that actually doesn't have anything great in it, and just because of marketing, it can sell crazy amounts of money, crazy amounts.
P. Diddy, that's why.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that the research shows with topical skincare products is that they should be mildly acidic. So with a pH of around 4, 4.5 is ideal because what that does is it helps maintain that skin microbiome, those beneficial bacteria. And it also, there's actually been research on with aging, with wrinkles, that using mildly acidic products on a regular basis can actually decrease wrinkle depth and length. And then it also can help with acne, because we were talking about acne, and I know people always ask me about, how can they make sure that they're aging gracefully and everything. So I wanted to throw that in. But with acne, it helps maintain that skin microbiome, which is going to keep those bacteria in check that lead to that trigger acne. So a mildly acidic skincare routine. And
so what about like apple cider vinegars?
Well, yeah, vinegar is mildly acidic. There are recipes to do it yourself, washes and
Have you ever done that or experimented?
Yeah, I do a lot of that, and I share a lot of that on my Facebook page, on my Pinterest, my Instagram.
Oh, cool.
I have lots of do-it-yourself recipes because I know it's a great way for people to, because we were talking about, there's so many different skincare products, and most of them are loaded with harmful chemicals. And a lot of times people think, oh, I'm just putting this on my skin. It's not really going to affect me otherwise.
It's on the outside of me.
Our skin is very absorbent, and it absorbs all those things that you're putting on your skin. It can go into your bloodstream. And we know that many of the ingredients in skincare products, or some of the ingredients in skincare products, actually have hormone disrupting effects. Some are even carcinogenic.
Yeah.
And so even, they might not be doing good, but some of them actually may be more harmful. So, for example, oxybenzone one of the most common ingredients in sunscreen. And this, in the summertime, people are slathering on sunscreens, and many of those have oxybenzone in there. And that is a known hormone disrupting chemical. So when that gets absorbed through the bloodstream, the concern is that what is it going to do in your body? What is it going to do to your hormone balance? And especially something like, with acne, when you've already got androgen excess and your hormones are kind of surging and crazy and all of that, especially as a teenager or during perimenopause, when a lot of women get more outbreaks, it could be disrupting hormones again. So it's really important to look at skincare ingredients and take out the ones that are harmful. Look at those, start learning about those. And then one way is to do it yourself. That's why I put so much on my Facebook and Instagram, Pinterest, is to help people have that information so that they can create their own products, like the mildly acidic.
Yeah, and a lot of the do-it-yourself recipes, sure, they might not come out as creamy, or the nice scent with essential oils or whatever fragrances they're using might not be as strong, but like a lot of them work the same, if not better, than a lot of the conventional ones. I mean, I'm getting into the hair pomade industry with my brother. We're starting our own thing and trying to do more of a natural take on it, and I'm just reading the ingredients for a lot of cosmetics in general, because a lot of them are really the same, whether it's skin products, lotions, soaps, hair products. I mean, they use the same bases. And if you want to do natural stuff, it's pretty much just, a couple carrier oils, some fats, some waxes, depends on what you want for the specific goal. But the point being, a lot of it's easier than you think. And so when you find a couple do-it-yourself recipes, not only are you saving money, getting educated, doing it yourself, but you're also a lot of times getting a better product altogether. So do you have any really easy, off the top of your head, like do-it-yourself skincare recipes you could share right now?
Well, there's so many, and there's aloe is a great. I'm just going to share some ingredients that that are some of my favorites. Aloe, just getting an aloe plant, that fresh aloe straight from a plant, is so good for the skin, and really for all different skin types. And if you calendula is also very healing for the skin. You can make a nice calendula face wash.
What is that?
Calendula is a flower. It's also it's marigold is the common name for it. And so calendula, you can get it as non-alcoholic tincture. It's not really a tincture because it doesn't have alcohol in it. Or you can get it and you can get the actual herb itself and make it yourself. But that's also very healing for the skin. It's great for eczema. It's great for acne, all kinds. So if you got something like that and you made some of your own products with that, it can be very helpful. And oils, as far as oils go, jojoba oil is a nice one that people can use that doesn't clog the skin. A lot of times people with acne think that they can't put oils on the skin, that they have to do things that dry out the skin. But that's actually, if you dry out the skin, that's going to make it worse, because then your body kind of kicks into overtime of trying to produce more oil because it feels dried out. And a lot of people have dry skin, but still get acne. And so using oils, the right oils, can actually help prevent acne. Things like jojoba don't tend to clog the pores. And if you're adding other things in there like aloe and calendula, and you can also, if you want to make them a little bit more acidic, you can add things like lemon juice or apple cider vinegar. So there's some nice combinations that you can make. And I know not everybody has time to make their own skincare products. So I'm also coming out with my own skincare line in November because I realized I had so many people asking me, where can I find skincare products that don't have all these harmful ingredients, but that actually work? Because there's also this misbelief that if it's a natural skincare product, they think it's not going to work. That you've got to have these really harsh, intense ingredients for it to have an effect, whether that's, treating acne or preventing wrinkles and premature aging. So that's why I'm creating a daily essentials line with a cleanser, serum, moisturizer, a nice combination that's going to be great that's got that mild acidity that's going to be great for people with skin problems like acne or rosacea, eczema, but also just to have, that healthy glow.
Sure. Yeah, and a lot of times too with the do-it-yourself movement, one thing I've realized just, formulating pomades and stuff is that there's a lot of research that goes into making the right ratios. And so it's not just I don't have the time to buy all the ingredients and make it myself. It's the legit excuse of I don't have the time to put in the 40, 80, 100 hours it takes to experiment with getting the ratios right, to experiment with finding the best texture, consistency, smells, all that stuff. It's all been taken care of when you buy someone's product. So a lot of times, like, you can do it yourself, but sometimes it is better to just save it and save your time, because that's money too, and invest in some really good quality products.
Yeah, and the raw materials themselves, where you get those and whether they're organic or, wild
Takes
harvested.
time, yeah.
Yeah, it takes time, and it can be expensive to buy all those products too individually. But again, I do think it's kind of a fun thing to do. I do one face mask that is avocado and blueberries, and I do soaked almonds, like they're soaked overnight, and a little bit of coconut water and a little bit of lemon juice. And and did I say kale? Yeah, a little bit of kale too. Blend all that up in a blender, put that on as a face mask, and then you just take like a cup of coconut milk, add that to what's left in the blender, and then you can drink it as a smoothie. So it's kind of nice. You don't have anything left over, and you get, the nourishment on the outside and then the inside, because it's got all those great antioxidant rich, and there's some great oils from the avocado. And so it's a nice combination, a little bit of lemon to make it more acidic.
Yeah, I've never heard about drinking your face mask before. So.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic of face masks and skin, healthy glowing skin, I know you do women specific work. So I guess a relevant question then comes transitioning to cosmetics and makeup, really. With makeup, a lot of women use it. A lot of women have transitions, from what I know, to more natural makeups like Bare Minerals. And I played completely ignorant about makeup. I don't really know anything. So it's great we have you on to tell us about it. So give us the breakdown about makeup. What should we know? What should we look out for? Is there anything we should be doing?
Yeah. So there are some good mineral makeups out there, and I do like mineral makeups. Be more natural, and also they do provide some natural sun protection. So those are great. What I would be careful with is when they come in powdered form. The problem is a lot of these are nano-sized particles of the titanium dioxide and the zinc oxide, which are part of the mineral makeup, and which would cause it to be a great sun protection. But when it's nano-sized and it goes into the air, and you're like, have a powder and you're powdering your face, then you breathe it in, and the concern is that it's going to get stuck in your lungs, and because they're teeny little sized particles. So I would just say the mineral makeups are great. Stay away from the loose powder ones. Or if you use them, make sure that they're not nano-sized.
Dang, I haven't thought about that. Okay, so you can actually inhale your makeup, and it's pretty bad for you.
Yeah, the concern is that the particles are so tiny that they would get trapped in the alveoli in the lungs.
Wow, that's crazy. It's kind of like asbestos. We used to think that was great, but then we realized we could breathe it in, and it's...
Yeah, exactly the same kind of idea. We don't want to be breathing in those teeny little particles.
Wow. Okay, so have you seen conventional makeups, any research on them having those tiny particles?
Yeah, it's actually, I think... some companies are trying to remove them, or stick with a pressed powder and not a loose powder, or doing them as liquids instead.
Because it seems like the cosmetic companies would if it was giving people cancer and stuff, would pull that pretty quick. But
I'm not. I think they're still out there. So you just so people are aware to look out for that.
Nano-sized is what they should be watching for.
Yeah, nano-sized particles in the powder forms. Now, if they're gels, creams, foundations, that doesn't seem to be a problem. At this point, the research doesn't show any kind of concern about that. But I'm just concerned about people breathing those in.
Okay. And what about the performance of more natural makeups? Have you seen a difference experimenting with using makeup? Anything that hasn't performed as well?
I think the mineral makeups are great. I really do. I think that technology is fantastic. It it goes on well. For people who want to wear makeup, it is, it works great. And again, the sun protection, that's awesome that we have that additional benefit, that protecting our skin from the sun. And what I just want to mention about the sun is we all want to be careful about sun exposure. However, some sun is good, right? We want to get vitamin D. A lot of people will slather on sunscreen and cover up their entire bodies, wear hats, and never get exposure to the sun and get that vitamin D we need. But you don't need a lot. You only need, for fair people, like 5-10 minutes a few times a week. For people with more pigmented skin, with darker skin, they're going to need a little bit more, like 30 minutes a few times a week without any sunscreen. And what I usually tell people is cover your face up so you don't worry about the sun exposure on your face and the sun damage, the hyperpigmentation, all of that especially women get concerned about. But expose your arms, your legs, the rest of your body to get some nice vitamin D.
Sure.
Because we need vitamin D for healthy skin too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess last question on makeup. What makeup do you use then? I'm curious, like for the women listening, they probably want to know, what is the woman who knows so much about skin? What does she go to? Can you give us some brands or suggestions?
I use a few different products, and I'll go through different ones. I like some of Jane Iredale's products, like her mascara. I like some of her products. Some of the lipsticks and things are good too. So the mineral makeups. You still have to be careful in looking at ingredients with all of these. There's also a brand in Whole Foods. I think it's called Color Science. I use that. They're sold in Whole Foods. Jane Iredale, I think you have to buy from estheticians or like salons, and they don't,
She's great. I love her stuff. She's great. Her lipstick on me just works wonders. Totally working for my color.
Right?
It just matches my outfits too. I love it. Jane Iredale, great woman.
Yeah.
Dr. Cates, man, this went by fast. Skin's a fascinating one. So, thanks for coming on and sharing. What do you got working on right now? You have a summit? Yeah, a book?
I have an ebook, Glowing Skin from Within. It's a #1 Amazon bestseller. People can get it on Amazon. It's only $2.99. It's an ebook, short little book, but it's got lots of great information on foods, specific nutrients, the top 7 best and worst foods, and the most important nutrients, the 8 top nutrients that are good for skin. I've got the skincare line coming out in November. So if people want to go to my website, drtrevorcates.com, subscribe to my newsletter, or take my skin quiz. There's a great skin quiz on my website, and people it's free. People fill it out. It takes 5 minutes, fill out a few questions, and it gives them some great tips on where to start, where are their weak spots with their skin and their overall health that might create more skin problems. And then once people do that, then they can get information from me about my skincare line when it's ready to come out.
Awesome, Dr. Cates. You got to send me some of your skincare. I'd love to try it. It'll be fascinating. And drink it if I can, because it sounds like I can.
Yeah, if you can't eat it, you shouldn't put it on your skin, right?
Yeah, blend it up with coconut milk and down the hatch it goes. Awesome, Dr. Cates. Thank you so much.